My name is Mikkel White. I am the pastor here at our South Lansing campus of Sycamore Creek Church. Joining me today as co-host is Sue Connectus.
Good morning, everyone.
Everybody say hello to Sue.
Hi.
We have an awesome service this morning, and we would like to start with a shout-out question just to get people engaged. For a fall, would you rather wake up a hibernating bear or be locked in a room full of squirrels? I'm going to go with the bear, honestly, because maybe it's moving slowly, maybe you're not super close to it, maybe you can, I don't know. I feel like being locked in a room full of squirrels, like there's no getting out of that.
Yeah,
That's
very
a problem.
True. Very true.
All right, well, for your consideration, you can just keep thinking about that. But for now, we have a couple of songs to sing. Would you stand with me as you're able, and let's sing together.
That is a good message to start with this morning. I don't know about you guys, first. Happy fall, y'all. I think today's our official start of pumpkin spice and everything nice. But I don't know about you guys. I've had a bit of a week. Anybody else? Bit of a week? It's 7 days like every other one. Congratulations. We all made it to Sunday. Exactly. That is worth, give yourselves a round of applause for being here. When I get this way, I like to go back to the center. I like to go back to that place that is just me and God, where I can just be and rest and know that I'm okay. Take me back to the garden. Lead me back to the moment I heard your voice. Take me back to communion. Lead me back to the moment I saw your face. When it was all so simple, it was easy to love. And no space between us, it was easy to trust. 'Cause you were closer, closer than my skin. You are in the air I'm breathing in. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beat again. And it feels so good to know you are my friend. So this is the garden, here in the place I find you close, and this is communion. Here in the place I'm fully known. It was all so simple, it's so easy to love. There's no space between us, you're so easy to trust. And you are closer, closer than my skin. You are in the air, breathing in. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I and you are in the air, breathing air. Here's where the dead things come back to living. I feel my heart beating again, and it feels so good to know you are my friend. Yes, it feels so good to know you are my friend. You may be seated. And kids, it's time to go to Kids Creek. Have fun.
Time for Kids Creek. Ugh. Did you know they get snacks up there? Yep, they get snacks. I wish we had, well, you could get snacks. Actually, there were some snacks in the cafe, so
That's true.
there's always an option.
Yep, and coffee.
And coffee as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep, this is our connection card. It's in your program, so if you've got one of those, go ahead and take it out, show it to me. Let me see that you've got it. Wave. Thank you. Thank you. So if you could please just write down your name and email right now. We're going to talk a little bit more about this card later on in the service, but if you could do that now, that'd be a great start.
yeah. And then you can take out your cell phones. We like to do selfies here, so take out your cell phone, take a selfie, and post that to your social media with the hashtag SCCMI. We're actually doing mountain selfies of the week, selfies on the mount, if you will. I've made that joke every week. It's just classic. So this week's mountain selfie of the week is Kira James.
Woohoo! Look
on
at that.
Mount
That's
Whitney.
awesome.
Yeah, she posted this last week. So, well, she wasn't there last week, but she posted it last week for us. If you have selfies on a mountain or just pictures of you on a mountain, post those this week with the hashtag SCCMI, or you can send them to me. We've got one more week of this, so look for that. And you might be next week's selfie of the week.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, yeah. We're in the middle of a series called Jesus Alternative Plan, and we're continuing the series with a message on the free life. And our message this morning, it begins with this.
We know everything today and believe almost nothing. Jesus' most well-known teaching, the Sermon on the Mount, doesn't just reform our world, it recreates our world, using not just words and concepts, but living images that grab your soul. Join Sycamore Creek as we spend 5 weeks living into the Sermon on the Mount using Richard Rohr's book, Jesus' Alternative Plan. Alongside the series, you're invited to join a small group reading Jesus' words yourself. You'll find that it is not what you know that matters or changes anything. It is what you believe, and believe all the way through.
I'm not really sure I want to give this message today. How's that for an opening line? As pastors, like those who are giving messages every week, like your opening line is something we give a lot of thought to. Authors put a lot of thought to the opening line of their books. Directors think about the opening line of movies. Opening lines make a big difference. I bet you recognize this opening line. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London during the war because of the air raids. Anybody know? Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Or how about this one? Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Harry Potter. You might not know this one, but this one, I've been reading a lot this year, and this one caught me. I stopped and I was like, oh my gosh. Bodies fell from the sky like stars that had lost their grip on reality. I had to finish that one. I thought it was 2 books, but it turns out to be a trilogy, and I'm still waiting for the 3rd one, and I hate that. Today we're going to be talking about the Beatitudes, which are the opening lines of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Beatitude is not a word I've heard anywhere except for in the church. Maybe you've never even heard it, or maybe you've only heard it in the church. So a beatitude is like a fortunate, blessed congrats. It's like we're saying congratulations. Now, there are 8 of these beatitudes in the sermon that Jesus gives, and they turn the world upside down. So as we start to get into these opening lines of Jesus' sermon, my confession to you is that sometimes I don't really like reading or studying or meditating on the beatitudes. Teaching and preaching on them is difficult, leading discussions, because they're really hard. They kick my butt. You might say they kick my, you're right. So in general, I am so far from what Jesus is describing, and I recognize that. And it's difficult to live in this tension of knowing this is what we're invited into, and yet I am not there. It's hard. I'd be lying if I told you I was looking forward to this. And yet, sometimes my job is to kick my own butt in preaching. Sometimes it's to kick your butt, right? Sometimes, so there's an old saying that puts it a little bit nicer than that. It's a preacher's job to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. So that's what we're doing today. I don't know that I really want to do it, but this is our invitation. In this sermon, Jesus is like the new Moses, right? Going up onto the mountain. Jesus is speaking to his followers. It's not just a general message for everyone, it's specifically to his followers. So if you're here and you would not say that you're a follower of Jesus, you get to listen in on this message that's really designed for the people who have already made that decision to follow Jesus. The Beatitudes are the inaugural address, the beginning of this sermon. They're a description of the free life, the life that is really real. And they make us ask, is my life really real? Is this how I'm living? And my answer a lot of times is, no, I'm not living that way. Like I said, the Beatitudes are these opening lines, and there's 8 of them in the sermon, and they turn the world upside down. Now, one of the things that we do here at Sycamore Creek is that we'll pause throughout our message for a chance to chat about things, to turn to your neighbor, to get to know someone around you. If you're joining us online, you can put this in the chat. Here's our first chat question this morning. If you were going to write the opening line of Jesus' first sermon, what would it be? Or, what's your favorite opening line of a book or a movie? You don't have to know the line exactly, but maybe you know what it's from. Let's take a minute and talk about it. All right. So you got a preview of some of the chat questions, and so
Thank heavens.
Thank heavens. You have a great answer for this.
So at this Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' friends were there, and there were probably some Romans there, checking up on things, seeing what this was all about. And there were people from the countryside that were there too. So I think Jesus' perfect opening line for this is, friends, Romans, and countrymen, lend me thy ears. All right.
Yeah. I think you can't really top that as an opening line for Jesus. I shared with you one of my favorite opening lines of a story, the light lark one. So, yeah.
This was a tough question, and it was really good to see so many people chatting about it. Good job.
I can't wait to hear what you all came up with, too.
Me too.
Yeah. So our next segment of the message is going to be a video segment from Pastor Tom. And he actually opened his message by saying it was going to be PG-13. So he, he's just using some swears, and they are bleeped out. We censored it. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming. And if you would prefer to step out, that's fine too. If you're, I'm giving you an option. But yeah, we're going to continue on with our message in this way.
So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to look at each of the 8 congratulations with some short commentary on each one. Here's the first congratulation. Congrats to the poor in spirit. The reign of heaven is theirs. Or maybe, congrats you poor in spirit. You've already got the really real. What the hell? That's the opening line? Congrats you poor in spirit? All right, we're in a series called Jesus Alternative Plan based on the book by Richard Rohr called, Jesus Alternative Plan. And it's the very beginning. It's our opening lines, our first congratulations for an 18-month experiment where we're going to do 14 different series, all inspired by the themes in the Sermon on the Mount. So Jesus starts out saying, congrats to the poor in spirit. And each of these translations, by the way, you're never going to find them out on the internet. They're either Richard Rohr's translations or my translations or some hodgepodge of the two. Now, this is the way that Matthew records Jesus' opening lines, but Luke, one of Jesus' earliest followers as well, records not a Sermon on the Mount, but a Sermon on the Plain. And Luke makes this, opening line a lot more concrete. He says, congrats to you who are poor. Luke's audience is probably the poor and the hurting. You see, he's a doctor, so he's working all the time with this population. And it was when I was first reading the Bible from cover to cover as a young adult in my early to mid-20s that I first read this whole account of Jesus' life, really from beginning to end in Luke. And Sarah and I had just bought a house, and it was in moments like this where Jesus says, congrats you who are poor, that Sarah and I started on a trajectory that our life went on for decades after that. You see, we had just bought a house and we started to share it with other people. We realized that Jesus was kicking our ass and telling us to, share our stuff. And as a married couple with no kids with a house, we had more space than we needed. Jesus' opening lines of this sermon push me to change the way I live. And of course, this hasn't always been easy. But Jesus says, congrats. So Luke opens with congrats to you who are poor, but Matthew opens with congrats to the poor in spirit. The reign of heaven is theirs. Now, Luke is speaking to the economic poor. He's speaking to the guy living under the bridge, panhandling during the day just to get his next meal. But Matthew is speaking to a different audience. Matthew is speaking to something of a middle-class group of Jewish Christians who don't live in Israel, maybe in Damascus, Syria. So Matthew records Jesus' words a little different. He says, congrats to the poor in spirit. In Matthew's version, I experience a, teensy-weensy bit of grace. Probably because Matthew's speaking to people similar to my situation in life. What is this poor in spirit? What does that mean? Poor in spirit is probably a kind of inner emptiness, sort of rejection of climbing the corporate ladder, of accumulating more and more. The humble, You know, the higher that you go up in leadership or the higher you go up in the corporate ladder, the more that you have to toe the party line, the more that you have to be careful with what you say and how you say it. And for good reason, because the higher up you are in the power structure, the more damage you can do with your words. I mean, I know this. We started out at Sycamore Creek as one campus. I used to be just the only pastor at Sycamore Creek, but now we have 3 campuses and 3 pastors. And it takes work for the 3 of us to coordinate how we do this thing called Sycamore Creek and to coordinate it together. So Jesus says, congrats to the poor in spirit. The reign of heaven is theirs. The really real, the free life, it's theirs right now. That's the first congratulations. The second congratulations is this. Congrats to those who mourn. They shall be comforted. Judith Orliff, a medical doctor, writes for the magazine Psychology Today, explaining that our tears don't just clean our eyes of physical debris, that tears can also cleanse our bodies of toxins. They're emotional tears, that these toxins need to be released. Richard Rohr says, to men's groups, I say that the young man who cannot cry is a savage, and the old man who cannot laugh is a fool. All right, here's another confession. I get numb to the pain and the tragedy of this world. I read about it every morning. I read the New York Times. I read about it in the Wall Street Journal. I read about it locally in the Lansing State Journal. I listen to it on NPR. I get numb to it. And I have to work really hard as somebody who lives in the middle class and kind of a, pretty stable situation. I have to work hard to cry, to lament with those who are crying and lamenting in our world. Do you cry for the injustices of the world? Do you hurt with those who hurt? Jesus reminds us to give a. All right, we looked at the second congratulations, which is congrats to those of you who mourn. Here's the third congratulations. Congrats to the gentle. They shall have the earth as their inheritance. Now, gentle is often translated as meek, which who in the world knows what meek is? And this is like the whole meek and mild Jesus. But here's what I think it means. I think it means the nonviolent. Those who are not willing to use violence to accomplish their goals. The gentle, the meek, the nonviolent. To be gentle and meek and nonviolent is not weak. It's not to get run over by everybody else. I mean, I think about Martin Luther King Jr., who practiced nonviolent active resistance. These are some of the bravest people that I know in our history who are willing to absorb with their bodies the blows of police officers, the bites of police dogs, the hoses of firemen, without fighting back physically. To live a nonviolent life is to live a life of strength. Now, Jesus goes on in his congratulations to say this, they shall have the earth as their inheritance. Landlords, well, in a lot of ways today, but especially back in Jesus' day, were hated people. They owned the land. They owned the property. The whole situation back in Jesus' day and age reminds me a lot of the situation today in America when it comes to Native Americans. Recently, I was listening to, along with my family and my boys on a car ride, a book called A Walk in the Park by Kevin Fedarko. The book recounts Kevin and his photographer friend who thru-hiked the Grand Canyon. It's a 700-mile trip from the beginning of the Grand Canyon to its end. And what's really hard about it is that there's no actual trail. You have to go down into the canyon and up the canyon and away. And, well, if you've ever seen pictures of it, you know how hard that would be. It's nearly impossible. Very few people have ever done it. But what Fedarko and his photographer came across, not just the beauty of the canyon, but the people who live there and have lived there in the past. And he recounts the story of how Native Americans in the area have been so poorly treated by America, by the National Park Service, and by so many other groups and organizations. Take, for example, the Havasupai. The Havasupai lived on 1.6 million acres of land. Now, just for comparison, the Grand Canyon National Park is 1.2 million acres. So 1.6 million acres is about 2 times the size of Rhode Island, or 1 million football fields. Their current reservation, in contrast, is a mere 518 acres, or 392 football fields. Central Park in New York is bigger at 843 acres, and Lake Lansing here in Lansing is about 500 acres. All of those are bigger than the reservation that the Havasupai are currently living on. The really real are going to be those who inherit the earth. This is a reversal of tremendous proportions. I mean, Jesus might as well be saying right now, congrats to the Havasupai, for you shall re-inherit the Grand Canyon. So the third congratulation is congrats to the gentle, for they shall have the earth as their inheritance. And now we're on to the fourth congratulation. Here's what Jesus says. Congrats to those who hunger and thirst for justice. They shall have their fill. Our world tells us that the way to have our fill is to accumulate more and more. But Jesus tells us that the way to have our fill is to do justice. You see, the problem with the culture's answer to how to have your fill is that you always need just a little bit more, just a little bit bigger. Recently, I was up in northern Michigan at my in-laws in Boyne City, and in Boyne City, there's some big boats. But if you go to Charlevoix, there's even bigger boats. But if you go to Harbor Springs, there's really big boats. But if you go to Bay Harbor, now we're talking about the big, big boats. And we haven't even hit on the mega yachts yet. I mean, we're talking about big yacht on a yacht. I mean, now we've entered into the Big Ten, right? Number 10 of the Big Ten Commandments.
Hear me! Oh, hear me! All pay heed! The Lord Jehovah, has given unto you these 10 commandments.
Number 10 is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Now, it's referencing thy neighbor's wife because back in the day and age, the wife was owned by the husband. Of course, we don't go along with that today, but the principle is still there. Don't covet. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. And yet in our culture, envy and covetousness and greed, like those are the very foundations of how our economy works. Now you may wonder, why am I telling you about all this stuff about big boats? And the reason is because I notice them. I love sailing. My wife and I are members of the Lake Lansing Sailing Club. And while there aren't any big yachts there, if you'd ask me, do I want a bigger sailboat? I'd say, yeah, I can use a little bigger sailboat. Richard Rohr offers an antidote to this kind of culture of envy and covetousness and greed. He says, make sure you're not satisfied is the message. Keep yourself in a state of deliberate dissatisfaction. Jesus kicks my ass again. Rohr has a friend who suggests fasting from advertisements. I mean, fasting is like abstaining from something, usually food, but in this case, abstaining from advertisements. I mean, how would you even do that in our culture? When I look over my shoulder here, there's like ads everywhere. We're behind Frandor. It's just constantly pulling me in, pulling you in. I mean, you could cancel all your catalog subscriptions. You could get one of those things that blocks ads on your web surfing. You could cancel following your Instagram influencers who are always trying to get you to buy something new. You could mute the TV when the commercials come on. But to get away from our culture is nearly impossible. This is why something like libraries or museums in our society are so countercultural. Nobody owns anything. We own it all together, and we all get the benefit and the good use of it. All right, maybe Jesus is kicking your ass right now like he's kicked mine, and let's stop, give you a chance to kind of stop being sore in the rear end and answer this question. Here it is. When have you wanted something a little bit bigger or a little bit more? And what would it mean to live in the dissatisfaction of not getting it? Let's talk about that.
Oh gosh. So what came to mind for me initially was like, not small things, but like when I am browsing at Target, like I always check out the clearance clothing and the books. I don't need more clothing. I don't need more books, but like I always look for them. And then the other thing is like we're in the middle of hunting for a house. And so then that's always the question, well, what do you prioritize and what do you need? And like a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a little bit nicer, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to stop watching HGTV because I was so dissatisfied with everything. It's like, oh, I could use that. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh. But it's interesting because not watching it anymore, what would it mean to live in the dissatisfaction of not getting it? I don't have that dissatisfaction because I'm not watching it anymore. And Tom was talking about that with the advertisements and even the TV shows.
Yeah.
It is so true.
Yeah, it's like when you cut off I have friends who are like, I have to unfollow that influencer, or I had like that.
Yeah.
So like Instagram Reels can do that same thing, where it's like just highlighting, oh, maybe you want this, or maybe you want that, and isn't it interesting, like how our desires change when we're not exposing ourselves to that message over and over.
Absolutely, it's so true.
I guess that's the free life that we're talking about today. Like that's like being free of that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue on. We've got we have 8 congratulations today. We've done 4. Our 5th one is this: congrats to the merciful. They shall have mercy shown them. I think this is so interesting. Rohr says, I believe with all my heart that mercy and forgiveness are the whole gospel. Mercy and forgiveness are the whole gospel. Mercy is just a way to describe the mystery of forgiveness, of being forgiven. Rohr says, we do not attain anything by our own holiness, but by 10,000 surrenders to mercy. A lifetime of receiving forgiveness allows us to become mercy. And that's the beatitude. That's what we're talking about here. We have to come to a point where we can accept that we are accepted and then accept others. That's what it means for those who show mercy will be shown mercy. The 6th congratulation is congrats to the pure in heart. They shall see God. When the heart is right, seeing will be right. You can see clearly when you have a pure heart, when you have insight and wisdom. Like Madeline L'Engle says that believing takes practice. So seeing in this way takes practice. It takes practice to develop that sort of pure heart. Where our culture says that you have to understand before you can believe. right? You can't see things, you can't really know things. You have to understand it first, and then you can believe. And Augustine said, you have to believe before you can understand. Well, Fox Mulder says, I want to believe, right? This is X-Files for those of you who are too young to understand this reference. All right, so our seventh congratulation. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be recognized as children of God. Now, this is a really interesting one because it draws us to recognize that peacemaking is different than peacekeeping. Peacemaking is different than peacekeeping. Rohr has something that he says that, well, it's a little tricky to say. One thing we cannot call Jesus is a patriot. One thing we can't call Jesus a patriot, because there is that huge difference between peacekeeping and peacemaking. Peacekeeping is about keeping the peace for the nation or for whatever through coercion, through violence, where peacemaking is about being one who reconciles. So for peacekeeping, here's some images that you might think of when you think of peacekeeping. The Colt Peacekeeper, a weapon that was called a peacekeeper because it kept the peace through force. Or this one, a peacekeeper missile, right? This is an intercontinental ballistic missile that was part of the United States strategic nuclear arsenal from 1986 to 2005. The idea being that if you have the biggest weapon, you can coerce people to not fight you, right? That's peacekeeping. We've talked before about Pax Romana, which is the Roman peace that was kept through control and violence, versus Pax Christi, which is the peace of Christ, and that's through justice and self-sacrifice. Peace at the center of the empire often equals violence at its edges. So if you're keeping the peace at the center of the empire, there's often violence at the edges. Think about the Hunger Games, right? You've got the capital of Panem, which looks really nice, really fancy. There's little discord there, and that's at the cost of what's happening in District 12, right? There's a great inconsistency in calling oneself pro-life, but not being deeply concerned about the incredible death toll that war takes on civilian or military populations. This is what we're talking about when we're getting to peacemaking. Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be recognized as children of God. Our eighth congratulation. Congrats to those who are persecuted in the cause of justice. The reign of heaven is theirs. So when Jesus says this, he's not posing some hypothetical situation about persecution, like people are being persecuted right then, right in front of them. And working for justice will lead to persecution. Happiness is also right now in the midst of that persecution, in the midst of that opposition. Jesus says, rejoice and be glad. Blessed are you when people abuse you and persecute you and speak all kinds of slander against you falsely on my account. This is what Jesus is saying. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. This is how they persecuted the prophets before you. You're in a long line of people. Rohr says that something is true gospel if it engenders criticism and the spreading of falsehoods. Too much praise is probably an indication that it's not the full gospel. So if it's really the gospel, there's going to be opposition to it. People are going to criticize it. People are going to spread falsehoods about it. Too much praise is probably an indication that it's not the full gospel. Did I mention that I struggle with this? Did I mention that this kicks my butt? I see this sort of thing often used by leaders who are looking to avoid the consequences of their own actions, right? Who claim persecution for speaking the truth, but they're actually unwilling to consider that they might be wrong. And so that's not what we're talking about here. But I see this on both sides of the aisle, the metaphorical aisle. And there's something true here. You can't speak for justice without getting criticized. You can't do anything significant without experiencing criticism, especially in our social media saturated world. I hate that. It's not fun. At the same time, Jesus' words are an encouragement to those who are using their power to lift up people on the underside of power. This is an encouragement to us. This is also our eighth and final congratulations. So let's pause here for one more chat question. When was the time that you were criticized for doing what you thought was the right thing? When was the time the criticism ended up being true? Take a minute and talk about it. Our first answer was kind of similar to each other.
Yeah. So I said the criticism was offering unsolicited advice. So when you say, Sue, I have a problem with ... I hear, Sue, I have a problem with ... and you're the only person in the world that can possibly help me with this.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a trap many of us fall into.
Yeah.
I thought of this doesn't so much happen here, but in other workplaces that I've been in, I've like heard about something or seen something, and I see a problem, and I'm like, oh, it would be really helpful for me to point this out. That's not always how people experience my input, and so. I mean,
there's a better way to do that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm like, and they're like, no, we didn't hire you for that. And so maybe that's kind of true, right? Like there's a way for me to bring up something or like let the people in charge make decisions, whatever. But the other thing that I thought of was when I told people that I had come to a place of being affirming of LGBTQIA folks. I got a lot of criticism for that. I don't think that was right criticism.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people had opinions about whether or not I should be in that place. And so that was another option, another thing that came to mind as I processed this. All right, well, let's continue on with our final segment here. Jesus is finishing this introduction to the sermon. He's finishing the congratulatory lines, and he wraps up this introduction by saying that you are the salt of the earth. You are the light for the world. You are a city on a hill. When we live according to this free life that Jesus describes, we'll wind up giving something back to the world. A gift to the earth, to all creation, to humans and creatures and plants and soil. Like the salt and light is both for insiders and for outsiders. It's for everybody. It gives taste to the world. It preserves the world. Madeline L'Engle says that we draw people to Christ not by loudly discrediting what they believe, by telling them how wrong they are. Oh, see, that sounds familiar to what we were just talking about, right? And how right we are, but by showing them a light that is so lovely that they want it with all their hearts. They want with all their hearts to know the source of it. This is the description of the free life, of the really real life. And I pray that it has given hope to all of us, to hope and comfort to those who need it most, and it has afflicted those who need to be afflicted. It's kicked the butt of the people who need to have their butts kicked, and whatever. And myself included. For some of us, the butt kicking that we need this morning is to get involved in something, to connect to something. And so we actually have a few ways. Our prayer is that you would get connected. And so here are some ways that you can get connected. I want you to pull out your connection card back out. Again, updating the information. But then on the flip side, we have a place that you can write your prayer requests. This is a way for people to communicate what's going on in their lives. We have a team of people who pray for these prayer requests. I see them. I try to reach out when I see them and ask people how they're doing. But then we also have some next steps here.
Yeah, so one of them that's not listed on here is I facilitate a small group. We do a spiritual retreat once a month, and that next retreat is tomorrow. And it's from here. It's here from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can sign up if you want to, or you can just show up tomorrow if you'd like to do that. We'd love to have you there. The one thing you do need to do is to bring your own snacks and drinks and a lunch. But we'd love to have you there.
Awesome. So after people fill out this connection card, you can write retreat on there if you want, but like she said, you can just show up.
Just show up.
And then drop this in the blue bucket at the end of your row. Before you do that, though, you might check out the groups and events catalog that's in your program. Your retreat is one of the groups and events.
Yes.
In this catalog. And if you're interested in more information about any one of these things, you can write the number of the group you're interested in on your connection card. There's a little line for it. And then the group leader will follow up with you. You're not committing to go to the group or the event, but you're just saying, hey, I'm interested in some more information.
Yep.
So that's something that you can do.
And you're not committed to going to every monthly retreat either, just the ones that work for you. Yeah.
In just a couple of weeks, we have our big day. The first the first Sunday in October, we have our big days.
Our South Lansing Art Festival.
South Lansing Art Festival. Woo! So in your program, you've got a flyer for this. You also have a sticky note here, and that might be a little weird to you if you're not used to this. It says, invite, pick up, bring. The idea here is that you would invite people to join us at that big day, and that you'd not just say, hey, why don't you come out? You'd say, hey, let me pick you up and give you a ride. We'll grab coffee beforehand. Or text me when you get there, and I'll meet you in the parking lot. We'll walk in together. It is so awkward sometimes to walk into spaces that are new. Yeah. Have you seen the things that are like every introvert needs an extrovert who will be their social? Yes. That's what we're talking about here. Maybe you're inviting an extrovert who doesn't need that help. If you're inviting an introvert, help facilitate that.
It's a great opportunity to invite your friends. There's just wonderful things that happen there. The food trucks are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
They have, I don't know if they'll have it this year, but they have a honey vendor that I always pick up my honey from. And
we'll see. I'm excited.
Arts and crafts and just a great time.
Yeah.
And pumpkins.
And free pumpkins.
Yeah.
Every person gets a free pumpkin. This is right after the service, so you'll come and you'll worship with us here and then just walk out the door and there's the art festival happening right there. It's a lot of fun. And we're actually looking for people to help volunteer, to help make that happen. I've got a sign-up sheet. It's a digital sign-up sheet, though, so you'll have to mark it on your connection card or just let me know, and I'll share that, and you can help make that happen.
And then what you do with this after you've filled all that out, on the aisles, there are blue buckets. You can put them in there. And you can also do this online as well for those of you watching at home.
Well, that's right. All right. This week, also on Wednesday, is our Pastor in a Pub. You can meet me at Art's Pub on Kalamazoo. They have really good food. Really good food. They also have drinks, and you don't have to get alcoholic drinks if that's not your thing. But if it's your first time, I'll buy your first drink.
Awesome.
So
They do
bring
have
a friend,
amazing pizza.
and they do
Yeah.
have amazing pizza. We got some this week actually because it was so good. We have a couple of ways that you can give financially. You can scan this QR code. You can go online. You can go on the app. You can drop money, drop a gift into the blue bucket. However you choose to give, we're really thankful for your giving. It helps make the mission here possible. And one of the things that we're celebrating this week that you helped make happen was our inaugural Ignite Leadership Conference. For those of you who were able to attend, you know that this was encouraging and practical, and I think a lot of us, it was exactly what we needed. So,
Nice.
yeah, I think we're planning to do it again next year, and this is one of the things that your giving helps make happen. All right, we've got one last shout out question. What is your fall must-do activity? Like, it's not a good fall unless you do this thing. Apple picking, huh?
Cider mill.
Cider mill. We, for some reason, always make puppy chow.
Oh.
Like that's a fall activity. I don't know why it became a fall activity for us, but it's a fall activity. It's like, this is what we got to do. Yeah. Pumpkin carving. Yes. Also, you could say the South Lansing Art Festival.
Oh, yes.
That's an option.
I heard Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah. All right. Well, we have a couple of more songs to sing this morning. Would you stand with me as you're able, and let's sing together.
He is God. on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses. He is God. We do pretty well being poor. It's not a bad thing. And always a good way to end a service is to remember how incredibly loved we are by an incredible God. So if you will join us in this last one, let's bring it up.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. I hope that you will come back next week as we wrap up our series with an episode on building bridges. And until then, be curious, be creative, and be compassionate. Go in peace, friends.